Remembering Connecticut, the Civil War.
Rally round the flag, boys, we'll rally once again, shouting the battle cry of freedom.
Between 1861 and 1865, some 55,000 Connecticut troops were mustered into the Union Army. One of those soldiers was Charles G. Lee of Guilford, who in 1862 joined Company B of the 16th Connecticut Volunteers, and at the age of 18, headed for war with hometown buddies. Corporal Lee escaped injury during the Battle of Antietam in 1862 and the Peninsula Raid in 1863, but he did not fare so well during the Battle of Plymouth, North Carolina. On April 20th, 1864, he began a long ordeal as a prisoner of war. Lee soon found himself at Addisonville, Georgia, site of the most infamous Confederate prison. Its stockade teemed with over 31,000 soldiers that summer, many of them from Connecticut. Food was in short supply, medical care was poor, sanitation was terrible. Within 10 months, over 14,000 soldiers died. The daily diary that Charles Lee kept takes us inside that world.
May 7. The day was spent reading, cooking, and sleeping. Just at night, we drew cooked rations, a slice of boiled meat about 2 inches square, and a piece of cornbread about the size of a man's hand. The daily deaths average about 40. June 12. The weather has been wet most of the day, and we have lain in our tent thinking of and talking of home. I came near having the blues, and I think I have realized more perfectly today the condition which we are in than ever before. June 20. Corporal Borwarth of Company D in our regiment died this a.m. of diarrhea. This is the first death which has occurred in our regiment since we came here, but we are all liable to be taken down and die in a few days. I may, perhaps, be the next one. God grant that I may be found ready. July 8. The day has been very hot, and I could enjoy myself much better if home making hay than in this dismal pen. August 20. This morning, Loomis, Stannard, Fowler, and myself carried Malone out to the dead house in a blanket, as the Confederacy is not able to furnish a stretcher. After we got in, my ankles were so lame. August 27. That I could but just I passed a miserable night last night, slept but very little on account of diarrhea and mosquitoes. This forenoon I suffered severely with a violent headache, have had it every forenoon for some time, and am somewhat afraid that if it continues, it may turn into brain fever.
On September 10, Charles Lee left Andersonville, but he was still a Confederate captive. For the next month, he languished in Charleston, South Carolina, where he continued to suffer hunger and sickness. In October, Lee and some of his closest friends were transported to another prison, this one in Florence, South Carolina. Huddled in their tent, the men passed the cold fall days, swapping stories about
mince pies and nice farmers' dinners, and building castles in the air of things we hope to do when we get home.
In his last diary entry on December 31st, Lee thanked God that his life had been spared and asked,
"May God grant me that the close of next year may find me in better circumstances and enjoying the society of my friends and relatives."
In February of 1865, Lee was among prisoners chosen for parole and exchange. Early the next month, however, he died of pneumonia in a Union hospital, his name added to the Connecticut fatalities that swelled to 5,500 by war's end. More than half of them, like Charles Lee, died from disease, not enemy bullets.